Welcome back. As we continue to make this Camaro a little bit quieter, we're going to focus on something that is very important and often underlooked, and that is the door panels. You see, the door panel is the front of the speaker enclosure, and that means it requires as much effort as any other place in the car. So we're going to step through how I treat car doors, specifically how I'm treating this car door using all of the Resonix materials that I feel are appropriate. So be patient. This is going to be a long video because honestly, there's a lot going on here. But thanks for watching and enjoy. We have door panels that we have to treat, and these door panels are going to make a lot of noise. So you can't just leave them alone. Now, as I mentioned before, these door panels actually come with these really handy sound absorbers. They're also really thin. So we're going to set these aside. And this is a raw door panel. Now, one of the challenges you have is the way that this fits on here. These clips are really hard to just pull off, and you don't want to break metal clips or break the plastic. So what I ended up doing was slipping this off and just prying these little pieces out. So slipping this off actually kind of sucks, I'll be honest. On the door here, that wasn't too terrible. Not a fan. I'll be honest, these doors are actually really annoying to get on and off. Now, this is obviously the factory door. I have one completed. Now, this actually gets adhered on with all these clips. So I just left it loose so you could see. What I've done is applied Resonix CLD to every flat surface that I had. These aren't flat, so it doesn't do any good to actually put anything there. And then I used the Resonix Fiber Mat 45 to adhere into all of the cavities that made sense. You can't do 100% coverage on this door. I could do some Fiber Mat 25 over all of this, but I do have the equivalent stuff from the factory. If this door had nothing, this would get a full treatment of 25, but that's not much different than what's already on there, so we're gonna leave that alone. Additionally, I pulled, this door has this little metal or plastic metal looking kind of clip here. I pulled that off entirely, and I used the Resonix butyl rope to seal all of the gaps that are created when you loosen things up, and also used the Resonix CLD cut into very thin strips and adhered that around the perimeter of that plastic piece. That's the main removable piece on these doors. Additionally, you'll see that Resonix CLD is, oh not CLD, sorry, CCF, is on the entire perimeter that comes in contact with the metal of the door, as well as around the clips, because these clips have a tendency to buzz and rattle. Now from the factory, this car has a bit of a rattle that comes from the door. Now, these clips are terrible, so I'm slitting this, so when the clips eventually snap back on in their final configuration, they'll be into plastic, yes, but this CCF is really thin, so that'll pinch them in and prevent them from making noise. So this is a fully treated door that we need to weigh. We actually need to weigh these two to see how much weight have we added to that door. I can't tell you how much weight that I've added to the door itself, but how much weight have we added to the door panel? Now, I did a test fit, and what we're interested in is how does this edge made up with the speaker foam. Insert image, you can see that we have an indent, right? Not super deep, but a good indent, and that's what's necessary. That's why we use those CCF rings. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna take this piece of crap door panel. This is the driver's side, so we got extra crap on it that we're gonna have to manage and deal with. We're gonna take it apart and we're gonna make this thing super quiet, because this door, look at that, where these two mate, like that, all this stuff has to be treated. So we want to make sure that this is our last option, last defense at not getting buzzing. We've done all that work on the door. We don't want to create problems here. So let's go ahead and jump into it. So let's take a look and see, use this scale here. What does a factory door panel weigh? Get it to balance. About 8.3 pounds. 8.4. 8.46, something like that, 8.4. And our modified door panel, which most of the way it's just going to be deadener and some butyl rope. .2, 12.2. So we've added just shy of 4 pounds of deadener, which isn't that much. I'll tell you that when you pick them up, that extra 4 pounds, you kind of feel it. But for 4 pounds of weight, it's not like this is no longer a fast car. So we'll call that a win. So obviously we're going to go through and we're going to treat this surface. First thing I want to do though is I want to protect the plastic. I don't want to scratch it up because this table, it's not a smooth surface. So okay, so we're going to go through and treat this door. So the first thing we want to do, find where our problems are. So one problem we have is obviously in this area. We have something that's loose. We know that this piece here is not really well attached. It's where one of the fasteners go, so it gets bolted to the car. So I know that when it gets bolted, that's gonna probably calm that down. You know, it's funny, people ask me, hey, what are these little vents for, man? Oh, they're special technology where they do absolutely nothing. Now we do have this little trim piece here, and I'm going to take this off and we're going to treat this. And that's kind of part of the process, right? If I hear it and I tap on it and it makes a slight bit of noise, it's going to make a lot more noise when I'm throwing mid bass at it. So for that, I need a screwdriver.
When you're removing screws from door panels, you want to be very careful. You don't want to put too much pressure, and you don't want to use power tools because you can very easily strip out these screws in plastic. Also, take very careful notes. Understand that if you pull different screws out of different lengths, sizes, and types, they have to go back in the exact same positions. So take notes, take your time, and pay attention. Here's some results.
So we'll just have these clips here and here. There we go. And now we're going to treat the foam with edges. You can see what this photo looks like. We're going to treat the edges with foam. There's not much to deaden on this. That really wouldn't do a lot of good. There's not much else you could do to this. I guess you could maybe surface apply, but we're not going crazy. We are going crazy, but we're not doing anything unnecessary. So we have an armrest here that's molded in. This is all molded. You can see they melt plastic. Not changing that. I have some plastic here, a screw that I could loosen. I got some screws that I could loosen here and here and here. That's probably how all of this assembly gets kind of clipped in. That's this assembly here. I didn't actually take the switch assembly out in the other car, the other door panel. It didn't bother me. I have some screws here, 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 and here. And I imagine that might be associated with something to retain this. But honestly, that looks like it molds in here. So I'm not taking this off. I didn't take it off on the other one. What I was looking initially to say, all right, before I start deadening things, I could always try and do some butyl rope on some of the mating surfaces. You know, because I know that I'm going to butyl rope these kinds of seams. That's what I did here. This whole edge, I butyl roped. Anywhere I have plastic like this that attaches to other plastic, separate it a bit and butyl rope it. But I just try to make sure that any of my gaps, any of these spots, right? Anywhere I feel like it'd be a problem gets treated. Now it's a little chilly still. This butyl rope's pretty thick. We're just going to grab a section of it. And I like giving it kind of a warm-up stretch as I begin to kind of apply it places. Obviously, as you stretch it, it becomes thinner. And the idea is, if I have a panel gap that I think might buzz, that's how I'm going to stuff it. If you got a clip that's kind of loose in and around, then you could always utilize some of this to start pinching it and holding it in place a little bit. That way it kind of takes away some of that extra play. And it's not permanent. I'm not taping it. I'm not, well, tape wouldn't be permanent either, but I'm not gluing it. I'm not expandable foaming it. I'm just saying, look, you're a button and I don't want you to buzz. This is also a button that's really close to my mid-bass driver. I'm not a huge fan of the grills on these. They're pretty restrictive. So that's always something that we can be concerned about. But this is a reactive process. I'm not getting the kind of rattles I was getting before. And you're not going to see much of what I'm doing at that distance. So I probably should have zoomed in. Let me go ahead and get you a little bit closer. There. Now that you're a little closer, you can see what I'm doing with this stuff is I'm looking for gaps that I feel I could get some resonance on. I got a gap there I'll fill, so I'm just going to take it, kind of tear it off, mold it a little bit. Just kind of cram it in there. If I feel like I need a plastic tool to shove it, I can. You're not going to see this on the other side, but I'm just trying to treat these kinds of small gaps. Now this sucks, so what we're going to do is we're going to tear a piece off. And we're just going to go ahead and cram this in there. The nice thing about it is when we reassign or refasten, and this is going to be sandwiched in there. Reassign. Golly, let's get this in. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you. Now, when the temps are a little warmer, you can risk manhandling a bit more. But when the temps are cooler, you cannot. With no tool. All right, so we have a deadened driver's side door panel. Now I was gonna do like a recording of it and a time lapse, but there's enough to this. You cut out small little pieces that perfectly fit, and then you press them in place. That's how deadener works. The areas that I'll show you that I covered. I did this piece only because it's a large mass that's kind of barely floating, so it has the opportunity to vibrate, act like a speaker. I'm essentially just tuning that speaker a lot lower. I did these sections. You want the largest pieces as possible. These aren't nearly as effective as you'd like them to be. This piece worked out really well. I kind of did this overlap, this L shape on these pieces here. There's a lot of these ribs that kind of prevent you from getting a lot of that done. Then obviously we also have over here around the speaker, this is the area where we want to make sure these large flat areas, these flat panels, they get as much treatment as possible. And this should have been a piece that was kind of like that one. I kind of just realized it after the fact. I got my little putty around this, and there's a light here. I puttied on that. So essentially, I'm good to go for fiber mat, but first I'm going to treat all of the mating surfaces with our wonderful friend close cell foam. So the way that this is going to go, and I figured I would make sure to not start this until you were with us, is I'm simply going to slowly apply it piece by piece. But you might as well see what this whole process looks like. So I don't want it to be seen on the exterior. So what I'm going to do is use the very outer edge, because if it's shown a little bit, so be it. We don't stretch this when we install it. It is stretchable. So what you kind of have to do is, as you pull the backing off, you create a little bit of stretch. Like I could stretch it out, but I don't want to. Part of the reason is if you stretch it, then you're giving the adhesive something it has to fight against. I don't want it to fight. Now I'll take this and I'll just wrap this edge down. It's actually why I cut it a little bit wider. I could have tried to go really, really thin. Then the problem when you go really thin is you have less adhesion, or less surface for adhesion. And I wait till I get to the very end, because you don't want to touch the adhesives with your fingers. Besides being very sticky, the oils on your fingers are going to reduce the effectiveness of the adhesion. All right, let's go ahead and zoom in a little bit more so you can see it close up. A little bit closer. You can see the stuff is very thin and very sticky. We'll just continue where we left off. You can see it kind of want to stretch. So I just wait, pull, nice and gentle.
One of the most important things you can take into consideration is to make sure that you don't create too much stress and stretch it. If you stretch it too much, then it's going to want to release. So take your time, pay attention to what you're doing, and make sure it lays perfectly flat.
Isn't that nice? So we keep this process up and continue all the way around. So we have another door panel done. And I originally intended on actually doing a time-lapse video of how all of this happens, but this takes a long time. Like, it's been a couple hours. I would say to get this door panel from where it started to where it is now, there's been about 3 hours that have passed, which is because you take your time. So nobody wants to watch a 3-hour video of me stuffing pillows in a door. And a time lapse doesn't seem to have a lot of value. So let's actually talk about what we did. Now you saw how we've added deadener to the door panel. Now the fiber mat itself, it cuts pretty easily. I do the same thing with fiber mat and sound absorption than I do with deadener. I use pieces of paper to build my forms, cut out the paper, transfer that to the fiber mat, cut it out, and stick it on. And I'm trying to get as much as possible. Now originally I wasn't going to put it up here, and I had a little bit less on the passenger. This is the passenger door, that's the driver's door. I had a little bit less on this, but as I was putting it on the driver's door, I'm like, I'm not cutting any corners on this. This is a one and done. This door sucks to get on and off. I don't want to take this door off ever again. If I take it off, it's because my driver's failed. That's the only thing that's going to get me to get this damn door panel off. So let's go ahead and get as much as possible. So I added some up here, and what we end up with, remember, this is what the car comes with. for a layout. Now I believe they are identical from one door to the next. Let's take a look here. I think they are exactly the same. No, this one has a hole. Yep, they're exactly the same. So it has these little clips you just kind of attach on. And the cool thing about the clips is they'll actually help hold some of this stuff in place, even though it has adhesive on it. But when you cut it into these little pieces, the adhesive doesn't quite stay in place. But I got this, that's gonna hold it all on. So come over here and do that one. And then here, and do that one. And last but not least, get that one on. So there. Now I have a lot of sound absorption. A lot of sound absorption. A lot of deadener. This door panel is unlike any door panel on a Camaro. Pretty much ever. Okay, so if the driver ever fails, then at that point in time, I'll go ahead and open that up and redo that. But I can shake it, and it doesn't make any noise. Isn't that awesome? All right, let's do the next door panel. I got this one. Same kind of thing, right? Got all my seals. I got my foam seals. So where all of my clips are, I have a piece of foam on the inside, piece of foam there. So they're not going to be buzzing around and rattling. I took those off. I got foam holding that down. Got my whole kit here. So let's go ahead and put this back. And like I said, I didn't put any on this because I have this here. So if I didn't have this from the factory, then I would have had to have done something more. I don't know. I think they're pretty cool. This is an insane way to treat a door. But they're done. Now they have to go back on. So I do need to talk about reinstalling this. So I have a layer of foam on this side, obviously, because these clips. That's what grips onto the metal. So what happens is you have to, one at a time, slip this on the marks that you've already made, so you know you get it in the same spot. And then it sits back down, and it actually, this clips onto that metal, onto the factory metal. So it's, like I said, the most annoying thing that I've ever seen. Now, if these were, say, like a nylon coated clip that the door popped in and out of nicely, brilliant, right? These would never come off unless you ever had to. You can even take the weather stripping off and leave these clips in place. I just need the weather stripping so I get the clips in the right spot. But the fact that you got to go through all this, like these are the wrong clips. I hate metal clips in doors, man. So now I can go through and fully seat these and prepare for the installation of the card. Now, these are also sitting up a little high. So what I found is I actually take a smaller rubber mallet and tap these back down and get them fully seated. Again, super unnecessary. I don't know. Maybe next time I try to work a 9-on pry tool and pry this off, but that plastic is not that strong. My concern is you could, on the wrong day, again, if it's hot enough, maybe it's okay, you could break the hole and then you're never gonna get a seat again. I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I like this. This is ridiculous. And I like my door panels now, but this is just stupid. But it is what it is. It's what we get to work with. All right.
And with that, we're finally complete. We have a set of doors that are treated about as well as I think we could possibly treat them. But we're not done yet. we have the knee bolsters. That's the hard plastic pieces that you saw missing in the previous photos. So I took fiber mat, still utilizing the materials that I had, traced it out, cut it out, and adhered it to those plastic pieces. Now it's like a couple $100 to buy those. So then I went to a fabric store. I picked up some kind of fleecy based fabric that kind of matched the aesthetics of the car, marked it out, cut it out, and of course this cutout is crazy, right? Like it's this crazy weird shape. That's because I'm not a professional. I'm just somebody that stayed at a Holiday Inn, and with that I used some adhesive and got it to pretty much look decent. I give them a B+. Now, I've been living with them for a while, and they are super comfortable. They are much better on the knees. So yeah, thank you for staying along with this, and tune in next time.